Give me a few minutes, and I'll show you something far more powerful than a goal. Something quieter, something calmer, something that rewires your entire life without force, pressure, or willpower. Most people believe they fail because they lack motivation, or discipline, or some secret formula other people seem to have. But the truth is simpler and far more liberating. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. Think about that for a moment. Every goal you've ever set depended on a future version of you. A version that was more disciplined, more energized, more focused, more perfect. But systems don't wait for the future. Systems shape you today. They whisper into your life through small, repeated choices, through structure, through consistency, through patterns that quietly reshape who you are. Even when your motivation disappears, even when your emotions shift, even when life gets heavy, a goal asks, "What do you want?" But a system asks, "Who are you becoming?" And that question, that deeper, quieter question, is the one that actually transforms your life. In the next chapters, you're going to discover a different way of living, a way that removes pressure, reduces overwhelm, calms your mind, and turns success into something inevitable, not stressful. You're not here to chase goals anymore. You're here to build the system that fits your soul, the system that upgrades your identity, your habits, and your entire way of being. So, take a breath. Relax your shoulders. Let your mind settle. Because once you understand the power of systems, you'll never approach change the same way again. Let's begin. Most people believe their life will change the moment they set a big goal. They think transformation begins with a declaration, "I will lose weight. I will become wealthy. I will wake up earlier. I will fix my life." But change doesn't begin with a goal. It begins with the identity you are willing to grow into. You don't rise to the level of your dreams. You fall to the level of your systems. And your systems are built on how you see yourself, your patterns, your emotional defaults, your daily choices, your inner narrative, before anything in your life shifts externally. Something must shift internally. Let's begin there. The hidden reason goals fail. When you set a goal, you create a picture of a future version of yourself, disciplined, focused, consistent, confident. But the person who wakes up tomorrow morning still holds yesterday's habits, yesterday's thoughts, yesterday's patterns. Your goal asks you to act like your best self. Your systems reflect who you actually believe you are. That's why people can want a better life so deeply, but keep living the same day on repeat. It's not a lack of motivation. It's an identity gap. I want to be healthy is a goal. I am someone who cares for my body every day is an identity. I want to be wealthy is a goal. I am someone who manages money with clarity and respect is an identity. I want to be disciplined is a goal. I am someone who follows systems that support my life is an identity. Only identity creates action that repeats. Only repetition creates systems that last. And only systems create transformation that endures. Identity drives behavior, not the other way around. Most people try to change their life by forcing behavior with motivation. But motivation is temporary, fragile, emotional, Your identity, however, is stable. It's the internal compass that determines what feels normal, natural, and expected for you. If your identity says, "I'm inconsistent," then even the best routine won't stick. If your identity says, "I always procrastinate," your environment will reflect it. If your identity says, "I'm not disciplined," your patterns will reinforce it. But here is the quiet power many people never learn. Identity is not something you discover. Identity is something you build. With every repeated action, no matter how small, you cast a vote for the person you want to become. You don't need to change your entire life. You just need to change the story you prove to yourself daily. One page read, one walk taken, one task finished, one moment of clarity chosen over distraction. Each small action whispers to your subconscious, "I am becoming someone new." Systems, the bridge between who you are and who you want to be. Goals are about the destination. Systems are about the path. Identity is the engine that keeps you moving. A goal says, "I want to be productive." A system says, "I start my day with structure." A goal says, "I want to feel calm." A system says, "I end my day with rituals that ground me." A goal says, "I want to be better." A system says, "Here is how I show up today." You don't transform because you wrote something in a notebook. You transform because you create environments, routines, and habits that make the desired behavior inevitable. A system removes the question, "Will I do it today?" and replaces it with, "This is simply what I do." That's how identity rewires itself. Not through pressure, through familiarity. You become what feels natural. You rise when your systems rise. The identity shift you must make. There is a moment in every person's journey where the truth becomes clear. Your life is not built by what you want. Your life is built by what you normalize. If you normalize distraction, chaos, and inconsistency, you will relive the same cycles again and again. But if you normalize structure, clarity, and intentional action, you begin to rewrite your destiny. This chapter isn't about changing your habits yet. It's about changing what you believe is possible for you. Let this be your new internal identity. I am someone who builds systems that support my future. I don't wait for motivation, I create momentum. I don't rely on goals to guide me, my systems guide me. I don't try to change everything at once, I repeat what matters most. Because once you shift this belief, your mind stops fighting against your progress and starts cooperating with it. The goal is not to chase a better life. The goal is to become the person who naturally lives it. The beginning of a new structure. As you continue through this audiobook, you will learn how to align your daily actions with the life you want. Build patterns that feel natural, not forced. Reduce pressure and reclaim presence. Calm your overwhelmed mind through simple systems. Strengthen your identity through repetition. Train your brain to love small wins. Take action even when emotions resist. Design routines that reduce overthinking. Stay consistent when results are slow. And ultimately, let your habits speak louder than your goals. But everything starts here with identity. Once the identity shifts, the systems become easy. Once the systems strengthen, the results become inevitable. You don't rise to your goals. You rise to your systems. and your systems rise with the identity you choose today. Take a breath. Settle into yourself. This is the beginning of your new becoming. There comes a moment in every person's journey where they realize something quietly powerful. Life does not change when you hope for better days. Life changes when your daily actions begin to match the future you say you want. Alignment is not about pushing harder, doing more, or chasing perfection. It is about choosing the behavior that reflects your values, not your impulses. It is the gentle, consistent decision to live today as the person you wish to become tomorrow. Most people never make this shift. They dream of a peaceful life, but live in chaos. They dream of health, but choose comfort. They dream of wealth, but waste time. They dream of discipline, but repeat distraction. There is no judgment here, only understanding. Because every misalignment is a sign that your actions belong to an older version of you, a version you have quietly outgrown. This chapter is about returning to yourself and choosing again. Your life follows what you normalize. Look around at your current habits, not with criticism, but with clarity. Your routines, your energy, your choices, they are not random. They are reflections of what you've been unconsciously accepting as normal. If you wake up distracted, distraction becomes your path. If you begin your day with intention, intention becomes your path. You don't need more discipline than everyone else. You need less friction, less misalignment between who you are and who you're becoming. Ask yourself gently, what is the life I say I want, and do my actions honor that life? This question is not meant to pressure you. It is meant to guide you home. Alignment begins with one honest moment. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the highest version of yourself. How do they speak? How do they treat their time? What do they do first thing in the morning? What do they let go of? What do they walk toward? This version of you isn't fictional. It's the truest part of you, the part that surfaces every time you feel inspired, hopeful, or determined. Alignment is simply choosing actions that respect that version of you. If you want mental peace, your actions must reflect stillness. If you want clarity, your actions must reflect structure. If you want strength, your actions must reflect consistency. If you want a new life, your actions must stop feeding the old one. Small, aligned actions shift. Your entire path alignment doesn't demand dramatic change. It asks for meaningful change. One decision, one shift, one new pattern that says, I'm no longer living from the past. I am walking toward who I am becoming. When you choose even a single aligned action, choosing a nourishing meal, saying no to something that drains you, protecting your focus, taking one step instead of postponing the entire journey, giving yourself rest instead of action, punishment, you send a message deep into your identity. I am capable of choosing the life I want. Moment by moment. The moment your actions soften into alignment, your path begins to unfold with less resistance. Not because life becomes easier, but because you stop fighting yourself. Alignment removes the noise. Misalignment is loud. It creates guilt, frustration, overwhelm, self-doubt. Alignment is quiet. It settles your mind. It clears the fog. It brings you into harmony with your inner clarity. When you are aligned, you no longer ask, Will I be motivated tomorrow? You ask, what is the next action that matches who I want to be? When you act from alignment, your mind calms, your system activates, your identity strengthens. The world outside may stay chaotic, but the world inside becomes steady. Your actions are a mirror of your future every day. With or without intention, you cast a vote for the person you are becoming. And the person you are becoming is built not by dramatic intentions, but by simple, aligned actions repeated consistently. If you want a peaceful life, you must take peaceful actions. If you want a purposeful life, you must take intentional actions. If you want a strong life, you must take disciplined actions. Your goals describe your hopes. Your actions describe your truth. To change your life, your truth must begin to match your hopes. Alignment is your first system before habits. Before structure, before discipline, there is alignment. It is the foundation of everything else. It is the quiet agreement between your soul and your behavior. When your actions respect your values, you feel whole. You feel grounded. You feel capable of more. There is no force, no weight, only flow. Because the moment you choose alignment, your life stops pulling you backward and begins guiding you forward. A gentle invitation tonight. Before you sleep, ask yourself, what is one small action tomorrow that matches the life I want? Not a big leap, not a perfect plan, just one aligned action. And when you take that action, take it with intention, take it with presence, take it knowing that every aligned choice becomes a building block of your new identity. You do not need to transform overnight. You only need to begin living in harmony with the future you desire. Alignment is the quiet beginning of every profound transformation. There is a softer way to change your life, one that doesn't rely on pressure, guilt, or perfection. It begins with a simple truth. You cannot build a peaceful life using stressful methods, and you cannot build sustainable habits by forcing yourself into patterns that don't feel like you. Real change lasts only when it feels natural. Not effortless, but aligned. Not easy, but right. Not perfect, but possible. This chapter is about building patterns that fit who you are today, so that you can naturally grow into who you are becoming tomorrow. The problem with forced habits: most people fail not because they lack motivation, but because they try to copy someone else's system. They see a perfect routine online. They try to follow it. They force themselves. They push harder. And then they burn out. Not because they are weak, but because the routine wasn't built for their life, their rhythm, their energy. A habit that feels foreign will never stay. A habit that feels natural will never leave. Your system must be designed around your humanity, not your idealization. Start with what already feels natural before creating new habits. Look at what you already do without effort. What time does your energy rise? When do your thoughts feel clear? What activity relaxes you? What environment helps you stay focused? These are not coincidences. They are clues. Clues to the patterns your mind and body already understand. Instead of forcing yourself into someone else's discipline, you build around what already works in your life. If you naturally feel calm in the evening, use that time for reflection or planning. If mornings bring clarity, use them for important tasks. If walking helps you think, turn walks into a daily check-in with yourself. Your natural rhythms are not weaknesses. They are invitations. You don't need a perfect pattern. You need a gentle one. A good pattern feels like this: supportive, repeatable, realistic, flexible, kind. It doesn't demand perfection. It doesn't punish you for missing a day. It doesn't create anxiety. A natural pattern meets you where you are and grows with you, step by step. Most people chase intensity, but intensity always fades. Consistency stays. And consistency is born from gentleness, not pressure. Build emotional alignment into your patterns, not restriction. If the way you practice growth makes you feel tense or guilty, the habit will not last. Your nervous system will reject it. So ask yourself, does this pattern support my well-being? Does it give me energy or drain it? Does it feel like something I want to return to? If the answer is no, soften it, simplify it, redesign it. Growth is not about doing more. It's about doing what matters in a way that feels sustainable. Small, natural patterns create big, quiet shifts. You don't need dramatic routines to transform your life. Start with what feels light. 5 minutes of clarity in the morning. A slow stretch before work. 1 focused hour without your phone. A short evening walk. 1 habit that signals, I'm showing up for myself today. You return to it naturally. And when you return naturally, consistency forms. And when consistency forms, identity changes. This is the quiet magic of natural habits. They reshape your life without burning you out. Release the pressure to be the perfect version of yourself. You don't need to become a machine. You don't need to match someone else's routine. You don't need to force discipline. True discipline is peaceful. It's the act of honoring your values, not punishing yourself. Give yourself permission to grow slowly, softly, delicately. The version of you who can maintain gentle patterns is far stronger than the version of you who forces intense ones. Because gentle patterns last, and lasting patterns change lives. The system that fits you is the system that frees you. You are not meant to live inside someone else's blueprint. Your life has its own pace, its own seasons, its own energy. When you design habits that feel natural, you free yourself from the cycle of starting over. There is no more self-judgment, no more burnout, no more pretending. Only alignment, only flow, only a system that supports your real life. The goal isn't to control yourself. The goal is to understand yourself well enough that discipline feels like an expression of self-respect, not self-punishment. A gentle invitation tonight. Ask yourself, what is one pattern I can design that feels natural to me? Something soft, simple, and sustainable. Begin there. Let it be imperfect. Let it be light. Let it feel like home. Because when your habits feel natural, your transformation finally feels possible. There is a kind of heaviness that builds quietly inside us, the weight of unfinished dreams, expectations, fears, timelines, imagined futures, and the pressure to fix everything all at once. Most people don't collapse under the difficulty of today. They collapse under the weight of every day they haven't lived yet. But your life was never meant to be carried in one moment. You are only meant to hold this day, this sunrise, this breath, this step. Everything else can wait. Why pressure builds your mind becomes overwhelmed when it tries to live in too many timelines, replaying yesterday, worrying about tomorrow, imagining every possible outcome, forecasting failures that haven't happened, carrying responsibilities that aren't yours yet, and suddenly, even the smallest task feels heavy. But here is the truth no one teaches you. You don't have to solve your entire life. You just have to take care of today. That's all. Relief begins the moment you stop trying to live 3 years ahead and gently return to the only moment you can shape now. Come back to the present moment. When your mind is scattered, pause and ask, what does today need from me? Not next week. Not the future version of you. Just today. Maybe it needs one honest conversation. Maybe it needs a glass of water and a slow breath. Maybe it needs focus for 1 hour. Maybe it needs rest. When you honor the needs of today, you stop drowning in impossible expectations. Life becomes lighter. Not because the world changed, but because you stopped dragging the future into the present. You don't need to be everything, just be here. You don't have to heal your whole life today. You don't have to become your best self by the weekend. You don't have to carry every responsibility alone. You just have to show up gently, honestly, and intentionally. One day is enough. One step is enough. One act of clarity is enough. Pressure grows when you believe progress must be dramatic. But real progress is soft. It arrives quietly through small, faithful repetitions. When you take care of today, tomorrow takes care of itself. A calmer way to grow. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need everything figured out. You don't need to chase 20 goals at once. What you need is presence, intention, one meaningful action. That's all. People overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can build in a year of simple, steady effort. Your life doesn't change when you conquer everything. It changes when you learn to soften, to slow down your mind, to focus on what is real right now. Today is real. Tomorrow is imagination. Work with the real. Let go of unrealistic expectations. Some days, you will have full energy. Some days, you won't. Some days, you will feel inspired. Some days, simply surviving is enough. This is not failure. This is being human. Remove the pressure to perform at 100% every day. Instead, give 100% of whatever you have today. Even if today, your 100% looks like 40%. Self-respect grows when you honor your limits instead of shaming yourself for them. Presence is the cure for overwhelm. Overwhelm is not caused by what you're doing. Overwhelm is caused by what you're thinking while you're doing it. When you live in the past, you carry regret. When you live in the future, you carry fear. When you live in the present, you carry only what you can hold. And that is always manageable. So slow down. Return to your body. Return to your breath. Return to this one task. This one moment. This one day. Life feels lighter when you stop time traveling in your mind. Make today the only standard. Here is a simple, powerful shift. Instead of asking, How far am I from my goals? Ask. Did I honor today? If the answer is yes, you are moving forward, even if you can't see the results yet. Your life is not built in grand moments. It is built in countless ordinary days that you chose to live with intention. When today is strong, your future becomes peaceful. A closing whisper. As you move through your day, remember, you are not behind. You are not failing. You are not supposed to have everything figured out. You are just living this one day. And that is enough. So release the weight that isn't yours. Release the timeline that isn't real. Release the pressure that keeps your heart too tight to breathe. Come back to now. Come back to what you can touch, see, change, and choose. Today is where your power lives. And today is all you ever need to carry. There is a moment, a quiet one, when your mind feels full, yet somehow empty at the same time. Full of noise, full of thoughts, full of obligations and unfinished loops, but empty of clarity. If you've ever felt this heaviness, the foggy confusion, the racing mind, the sense that you're always behind, you're not broken. You're simply overwhelmed. And overwhelmed minds don't run on willpower. They stabilize with systems, not strict routines, not long checklists. Just simple patterns that take pressure off your brain and make your day feel lighter, calmer, easier to hold. Let's breathe into that. Why your mind feels overwhelmed. An overwhelmed mind is usually dealing with one thing too many. Open loops. Tasks not done. Decisions not made. Thoughts not processed. Plans not clarified. Emotions not named. Your mind becomes like a room with every drawer open, every box pulled out, every light turned on. No wonder you feel exhausted. Mental clutter drains energy the same way physical clutter does. But here's the gentle truth. You don't need to think harder. You need to think less. And systems are how you think less while doing more. A system is a decision made once, so you don't have to make it again. Imagine waking up and not having to decide what to do first, what to eat, when to exercise, when to rest, what your priorities are. All of that already has a place. A system is simply a small structure that carries you when your motivation can't. It reduces the number of choices your mind has to make, which frees your attention and softens your internal pressure. Systems don't restrict your life. They protect your mental space. Why clarity feels like peace. Think of your mind as water. When life is chaotic, and the water becomes cloudy, you can't see below the surface. You can't find direction. You can't think clearly. But when you create structure, even a simple one, the water settles. Clarity returns. This is why the most powerful systems are not complicated. They're simple, repeatable rhythms that keep your mind steady. Like choosing your top 3 tasks the night before, preparing your space ahead of time, having a predictable morning flow, a weekly reset hour, a small nightly shutdown routine. These are not productivity hacks. They are mental healing mechanisms. They gently close open loops so your mind can finally rest. Reduce decisions. Reduce chaos. Reduce stress. Every decision you make costs mental energy. when your entire day is made of tiny decisions. What now? Should I do this? Did I forget something? What was I supposed to work on? You drain your brain before you even begin real work. But when you use systems, your mornings are guided, your priorities are chosen, your environment supports your focus, your emotions don't control your movement. You stop scrambling. You start flowing. It's not discipline, it's architecture. Create gentle systems that feel like support. Not restriction. Your system shouldn't feel heavy. It shouldn't feel strict. It shouldn't feel like a punishment. A good system feels like an exhale. It feels like something carrying you instead of something you have to carry. Start with questions like, what stresses me the most? Where does my day start to fall apart? What do I always forget? What feels chaotic for no reason? Then create one tiny rule to reduce that stress. If mornings feel rushed, prepare essentials at night. If your mind spins with too many tasks, use a simple daily list to pod. If decisions overwhelm, you decide once and automate it. If your space stresses you, reset it for 5 minutes daily. Small system. Big relief. You don't need more motivation, you need less mental noise. People think they need more discipline, more motivation, more inspiration. But 90% of the time, what they need is simply less noise. When your mind is quiet, you can finally hear your own direction. When your environment is structured, you can finally move without resistance. When your day has rhythm, you don't have to rely on emotional strength to do what matters. The calmer your system, the clearer your life becomes. Let life feel lighter. Imagine a version of your day where you know your next step without thinking. You start the morning calm, not chaotic. Your mind has space, not clutter. You save mental energy for meaningful work. You end the day with closure, not guilt. That's what simple systems do. They turn survival into flow. They turn overwhelm into clarity. They turn pressure into peace. Your mind deserves that. Your body needs that. Your future depends on that. You don't have to fight harder. You just have to make life easier to hold. Let your systems protect you. Let them lighten your load. Let them bring order to your thoughts and softness to your days. A calm mind is not a luxury. It is the foundation of a life that finally feels livable. There is something quietly powerful happening inside your life every single day. Something that most people overlook because it feels too ordinary, too familiar, too small to matter. It is the pattern, the repetition, the actions you do without thinking, the choices you make on autopilot. These hidden loops, not your goals, not your big dreams, are what shape your future. Most people believe change begins with inspiration. A new goal, a new plan, a new burst of motivation. But real change begins in places far less glamorous. The small moments where your behavior repeats itself. Again and again. Quietly writing the script of your life. You rise or fall not to your intentions, but to your repetitions. The quiet truth about why life doesn't change. If you've ever wondered why your life stays the same even though your goals are big, your heart is earnest. Your intentions are good. Here is the truth. Your behavior never shifted. The old loops kept running. The old patterns kept repeating. The old identity kept choosing the familiar path. And life cannot change when the patterns stay the same. You can want peace while repeating habits that create chaos. You can want success while repeating habits that drain your energy. You can want clarity while repeating distractions that fog your mind. Wanting does nothing. Repeating does everything. Repetition builds identity. Every time you repeat an action, you are not just doing something, you are becoming someone. Hit snooze again. You're becoming someone who postpones difficult things. Scroll endlessly when stressed. You're becoming someone who escapes discomfort. Show up for one tiny habit each morning. You're becoming someone who honors their life. Repetition is not small. Repetition is identity formation. Your life changes the moment your repeated actions begin to reflect the person you want to become, not the person you're used to being. This is why changing your life feels hard, not because you lack discipline, but because you are fighting against an identity that has been reinforced through years of repetition. But identities can change, and they change through repetition too. The same way you built your current patterns is the same way you will build your future ones. One repeated choice at a time. Awareness is the beginning of freedom. Before you fix anything, you must see it. Not with judgment, not with guilt, simply with honesty. Ask yourself, what do I repeat every day without noticing? What do I return to when I'm tired? What do I avoid when I'm afraid? What do I indulge in when I'm overwhelmed? These patterns reveal more about your future than any vision board ever could. Because your future is not created by your goals. Your future is created by what you repeat when things are boring, uninspiring, stressful, or ordinary. Awareness brings the pattern into the light, and what comes into the light can finally be changed. Replacing patterns. Instead of resisting them, humans rarely break habits by force. Resisting an old pattern only strengthens it. The key is replacement. You gently introduce a new loop that satisfies the same emotional need but leads to a different direction. If you scroll to escape stress, replace it with a 2-minute breath reset. If you procrastinate because tasks feel overwhelming, replace it with a 30-second start rule. If you binge noise when you feel lonely with Thels, replace it with 5 minutes of journaling or a simple grounding ritual. You don't need intensity. You need consistency. You don't need to change everything. You need to change the loop that appears the most. When one loop changes, your identity begins to shift. And as your identity shifts, the rest of the loops follow. The compound power of small repetitions. Most people underestimate the power of small actions because they don't look dramatic. But repetition quietly compounds. A 5-minute habit repeated for a year reshapes your discipline. A small act of self-respect repeated each morning reshapes your self-image. A nightly reset, repeated for months, reshapes your emotional stability. Success is not the product of one big decision. It is the accumulation of hundreds of small decisions that honor your future. Every repetition is a brick, and your life is the structure they build. A new way forward. Instead of asking, how can I reach my goals? Ask, what am I repeating that keeps me from becoming the person who naturally achieves those goals? Because if your patterns stay the same, your progress will always disappear. If your identity doesn't shift, your success will never stick. But when your habits begin to align with your future becomes inevitable. You don't need perfect discipline. You don't need flawless motivation. You just need one repeated action that proves you're becoming someone new. Let your repetitions tell the story. Let them rewrite your identity. Let them become the quiet revolution that transforms your life from the inside out. Fix what you repeat, and your life will follow. There is a simple truth about human behavior that most people never learn. A truth that quietly governs our emotions, our habits, our motivation, and ultimately the life we build. Your brain chases what it has been rewarded for. If distraction brings relief, your brain will crave distraction. If comfort removes discomfort, your brain will crave comfort. If avoidance feels easier than action, your brain will crave avoidance. Not because you're weak, not because you're unmotivated, simply because the brain is wired to repeat what feels good. But here is the miracle inside that reality. You can teach your brain to crave growth instead of escape, progress instead of avoidance, discipline instead of distraction. And the most powerful way to do that is through one of the most underestimated forces in psychology: small wins. Small wins change the mind from the inside out. Most people think change begins with big effort, intense workouts, massive routines, total life resets. They push hard, burn out fast, and then blame themselves for not having discipline. But big transformation rarely comes from big action. It comes from consistent small wins that teach the brain a new meaning of success. A small win is not the task itself. It's the identity shift that comes with it. When you finish a 2-minute task, when you complete something tiny but intentional, your brain receives a signal: I did what I said I would do. That signal is powerful. It's proof. It's identity building. It's momentum. And most importantly, it feels good. Your brain starts to associate progress with pleasure. Action becomes rewarding, not exhausting. Follow-through becomes satisfying, not stressful. This is how discipline becomes natural, not forced, not painful. Simply the next logical, emotionally rewarding step. Why small wins work when motivation fails? Motivation is emotional. Small wins are chemical. Every time you achieve something, even tiny, your brain releases a subtle wave of dopamine, the neurotransmitter of anticipation. Momentum, desire. It whispers, do that again. This is why finishing a small task often gives more psychological relief than starting a massive one. Small wins break resistance. They shrink overwhelm. They pull you back into action when emotions want to shut you down. When you feel stuck, it's not because the task is too big. It's because your brain doesn't know where to begin. But when you give yourself one easy win, the first domino falls. Momentum wakes up. Identity shifts slightly. And suddenly the next step feels possible again. Small wins are the spark. They begin the fire long before the flame is visible. The secret is to make wins feel close, not far. Most people make their goals emotionally distant. They focus on the finish line, the big outcome, the transformation. But the brain does not attach to distant outcomes. It attaches to immediate experiences. This is why chasing big results creates stress. But noticing small wins creates motivation. When you make progress feel near, Your brain believes change is achievable. You feel capable, grounded, aligned. This is why daily small wins are not optional. They are the emotional fuel that keeps your system alive on the days when willpower disappears. Celebrate the win, not the size of it. Your brain doesn't care how big the win is. It cares how noticed the win is. If you finish a task, but immediately rush into the next one, your brain receives no emotional reward. It stays in survival mode, overwhelm mode, never enough mode. But when you pause even for 2 seconds and register the completion, your brain lights up. You're teaching it, this matters. This is good. Do more of this. This is not self-indulgence. It is neurological conditioning. You're building a mind that sees progress everywhere instead of seeing failure everywhere. That shift changes everything. Small wins build self-trust. Self-trust is not built by achieving big goals. It is built by keeping small promises. People lose trust in themselves not because they fail big things, but because they repeatedly abandon small things. Every time you tell yourself, "I'll start tomorrow," your brain learns, "I don't believe myself." But when you complete one small action today, your brain learns, "I follow through. I can trust me." Self-trust is a muscle, and small wins are the reps. With every repetition, you strengthen the belief that you can depend on your own behavior. Once self-trust grows, discipline stops feeling like a fight and starts feeling like a natural extension of who you are. Let small wins reshape your identity. Your identity is built on the story you tell yourself. And small wins rewrite that story. Suddenly, you're not someone who's trying to improve. You're someone who improves daily. You're not someone who wants to be disciplined. You're someone who already honors their commitments. You're not someone who feels stuck. You're someone who moves even in tiny steps. Identity does not shift through pressure. Identity shifts through proof. And small wins give you that proof every single day. Make small wins the foundation of your system. A system built on intensity will collapse. A system built on pressure will break. A system built on punishment will never last. But a system built on small daily wins becomes unbreakable. Even on hard days, you can finish one win. Even when tired, you can honor one habit. Even when unmotivated, you can complete one tiny action that realigns you. You don't need dramatic effort. You need gentle consistency. One task completed. One routine honored. One win recognized. Do that long enough, and your life transforms quietly, steadily, almost effortlessly. Your brain is always learning, always shaping itself around what you repeatedly experience. So teach it to love progress. Teach it to crave movement. Teach it to expect follow-through. Teach it to enjoy the feeling of becoming someone stronger. You don't need to achieve something massive today. You just need one win, one moment where your brain feels the truth. I am capable. I am changing. I am moving forward. Small wins are not small. They are the foundation of the life you're becoming. And tomorrow, your brain will wake up wanting more. There is a subtle illusion that holds so many people hostage, the belief that you must feel ready before you act, that you must wait for motivation, that you must wait for the right time. the right mood, the right surge of confidence, clarity, or inspiration. But the truth is the opposite. You don't act because you feel motivated. You feel motivated because you act. Emotion follows action, not the other way around. And the sooner you understand this, the sooner your entire life begins to shift. Let's go deeper. Your feelings are not the problem. Your dependence on them is. Feelings are waves. Gentle one moment, overwhelming the next. They rise, fall, fluctuate, shift, and transform. If your progress depends on your emotions, your life will always move in unpredictable cycles. On good days, you move. On heavy days, you stall. On anxious days, you freeze. On uninspired days, you disappear. But systems don't disappear. Structure doesn't vanish. Habits don't evaporate. When you build a system that runs regardless of how you feel, your emotional landscape no longer dictates your destiny. This is the foundation of an action-first life. Action creates clarity. Most people hesitate because they feel confused. They wait for clarity to take the first step. But clarity doesn't appear before action, it emerges from it. You understand things by doing them. You figure out direction by moving toward it. You reduce fear by walking through it. The first step is always foggy. The second step is slightly clearer. By the 10th step, the path begins to make sense. This is why waiting for clarity is a trap. You gain clarity by showing up anyway. Action reduces anxiety. Anxiety grows in stillness. It feeds on indecision, avoidance, and hesitation. The longer you wait, the louder the fear becomes. But the moment you take action, any action, anxiety loses its power. Your brain shifts from what if to what now, and the mind calms when it is focused. Even a tiny step interrupts the spiral. Even a small movement creates relief. This is why action is healing. Not because it is perfect, but because it is forward. Action builds self-respect. Every time you show up, especially when you don't feel like it, you strengthen a quiet, powerful inner message. I can rely on myself. You don't get this feeling from motivation. You get it from consistency. When you act despite discomfort, your identity shifts from someone who waits to someone who moves, from someone controlled by emotion to someone grounded in intention. This is self-respect, and it is built through behavior, not through feelings. Emotion can be a visitor, but action is the foundation. You will have tired days. You will have days of self-doubt. You will have days when you feel off, slow, discouraged, disconnected. The system is what carries you through those days. Not passion, not inspiration, not emotional highs, but a quiet agreement with yourself. I show up in the smallest way possible. When action becomes your anchor, your emotions can fluctuate freely without slowing your life down. This is emotional maturity in practice. Make action so small it becomes impossible not to start. The secret is not discipline, it's design. Make the action tiny. Make it easy. Make it frictionless. You don't need to finish the whole workout, just begin. You don't need to write 10 pages, just open the document. You don't need the perfect routine, just honor the first step. When your system begins with something simple, your emotions rarely resist. The smallest action today is worth infinitely more than the perfect plan you couldn't begin yesterday. Progress is a pattern, not a feeling. People wait for motivation to return, as if it were a missing friend. But progress doesn't come from waiting. It comes from rhythm, from patterns, from the act of showing up repeatedly. You don't need to feel powerful. You don't need to feel inspired. You don't need to feel confident. You only need one quiet moment of courage, the moment you choose action over avoidance. And that moment strengthens every system in your life. A new way to move through your life. Imagine living with this truth. Your emotions are allowed to exist. Your systems are allowed to lead. Your fear can speak, but it cannot decide. Your doubt can whisper, but it cannot direct. Your mood can rise and fall, but your actions continue forward. This is what it means to become unstoppable, not emotionally invincible, but behaviorally consistent. The person who takes small, repeated action outgrows the person who waits for emotional alignment every time. The whisper that changes everything. As you move through the rest of this journey, carry this with you. You don't have to feel ready. You don't have to feel confident. You don't have to feel perfect. You only need to feel willing to take the smallest breath of action in the direction of your future. Because the life you want is not built by how you feel today. It is built by what you choose today. Action over emotion. Movement over hesitation. Showing up, especially when your feelings tremble, is how you become the person your future is waiting for. And when action becomes who you are, success becomes something you naturally grow into, not something you chase. When your day has structure, your mind finally has space to breathe. There is a kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from doing too much, but from thinking too much. Thinking in circles. Thinking without direction. Thinking without resolution. Overthinking is not a sign of intelligence. It is a sign of an unstructured mind trying to create clarity in an environment with too many open loops. Your brain spins because it doesn't know what comes next. It holds on to every worry because nothing in your day signals safety, rhythm, or predictability. The moment you give your day even the gentlest structure, your mind no longer has to anticipate every possibility or stay hyper-alert. It no longer has to keep planning and replanning your entire life in the background. Structure calms the nervous system. Structure gives your mind boundaries so it can finally rest inside them. Overthinking thrives in uncertainty. It grows when there is no clear starting point. When tasks don't have natural endings. When priorities feel scattered. And when your day is built on reaction instead of intention. When your schedule is unpredictable. Your brain compensates by staying mentally on guard. It scans for danger, unfinished obligations, forgotten details, and potential mistakes. This is why even simple decisions feel heavy. Your mind is doing too much work behind the scenes. And all of this happens because nothing in your day tells your mind you're safe. You know what comes next. Structure offers that safety. It doesn't need to be rigid or strict. True structure is not about control. It is about reducing the number of decisions your brain has to make. When you create small anchors in your day, a calm way to begin the morning, a focused block for meaningful work, a gentle reset ritual, you allow your mind to relax. The mental load becomes lighter. The noise softens. Your brain no longer wastes energy questioning, deciding, and hesitating. It simply follows the rhythm you've already created. A structured day has a beginning and an end. When you begin your morning with intention, even something simple, like one clear priority or a moment of stillness, your mind feels grounded instead of scrambled. And when you end your day with closure, an evening reset, a soft reflection, or a brief moment of tidying your mind, stops trying to complete the unfinished story of the day. Most overthinking happens at night because the day never really ended, and the mind is still trying to wrap itself around loose threads. Giving yourself closure is giving your brain permission to rest. One of the most powerful tools you can use is the idea of containers for your tasks. Instead of thinking about work all day, chores all day, decisions all day, you give each category a place in your schedule, a home. When a thought appears outside its container, you gently tell yourself, "This has a place, and that place is not right now." Your mind relaxes because it no longer fears forgetting anything. Structure becomes reassurance. Overthinking thrives in chaos, especially the chaos of multitasking. When your attention is scattered, your mind tries to manage too many mental tabs at once. But when you focus on one thing at a time inside a structured block, your brain enters a calmer state. It feels safe enough to concentrate. Structure is not the enemy of creativity. It is the foundation that makes clarity possible. Rest must also be part of your structure. A day without rest is a day your mind cannot process. When you move non-stop, your brain has no room to integrate thoughts or release tension. Rest is not a reward at the end of productivity. Rest is part of productivity. It is part of how you think clearly. A brief walk, a moment of calm breathing, a slow stretch. These reset the nervous system and silence the noise that leads to overthinking. Imagine a day where you know what matters, where your focus feels gentle but real, where you're not drowning in loops of thought. Imagine a day that doesn't push you into chaos, but gently guides you through what needs to be done. Structure gives you that day. Not perfection, not strictness, but rhythm. Your mind was never meant to hold everything at once. It was never meant to keep every thought alive or solve every problem immediately. Give your mind a home. Give your day a shape. Give your life a gentle flow that carries you instead of overwhelms you. Structure is not a cage. It is an act of kindness, a way of saying to your mind, "You can rest now. There is order here. You are safe inside this day." And when your mind feels safe, overthinking finally fades. In the end, your life is not shaped by what you hope for, plan for, or dream about. It is shaped by what you do quietly, repeatedly, consistently. Goals can inspire you, but they can also deceive you. They make you feel like you're moving simply because you're imagining movement. They give a sense of progress before any progress actually happens. A goal is a direction, not a transformation. A sentence on paper, not a shift in identity. The true change begins on the days when no one is watching, when nothing exciting is happening, when you choose to follow through anyway. That is where your future is built, not in your intentions, but in your repetitions. What you repeat becomes who you are. This has always been the real law beneath every transformation. If you want your life to change, stop listening to the version of you that only speaks in dreams. Listen to the version of you that shows up. The version of you who chooses action before emotion. The version who honors their values even when motivation runs low. The version who understands that a better life isn't created in dramatic bursts, but in quiet alignment. Identity is not declared. Identity is demonstrated. Identity is earned. When you repeat certain behaviors long enough, waking up with intention, choosing focus over distraction, showing kindness, protecting your energy, honoring your time, your brain stops seeing them as tasks. It begins to see them as truths about who you are. And once a habit becomes part of your identity, you no longer need willpower to sustain it. It becomes the way you move through the world. This is why relying on motivation makes your progress fragile. Motivation is emotional, whether it changes with sleep, moods, conversations, stress, and even random thoughts. A system built on motivation collapses, but a system built on identity endures, because it becomes natural, not forced. Your habits must eventually speak louder than your goals. Instead of, "I want to be healthier," your habits say, "I move my body every day. I nourish myself." Instead of, "I want to be focused," your habits say, "I create quiet. I reduce noise. I prioritize what matters." Instead of, "I want to be successful," your habits say, "I show up consistently. I learn. I improve. I keep going." The world believes what you do, not what you say. And deep down, so do you. Every habit is a small vote for the person you are becoming. No single choice defines you, but the pattern always will. Small actions repeat silently in the background of your life, shaping your confidence, your discipline, your sense of self-worth. When you follow through repeatedly, you don't just build habits, you build trust with yourself. And that trust becomes the foundation of your identity. Your future self is not created in the future. Your future self is created today. That's why the most powerful transformation you can experience is realizing that your life is built from the inside out. Not from the outcome you desire, but from the identity you practice. Not from the fantasies you imagine, but from the behaviors you repeat, the ones that happen quietly, without applause, without urgency, without reward. This is the true system: thoughts, actions, repetition, identity, reality. Most people stop at the first step. They think about change. They dream about change. They talk about change. But thinking is not becoming. Talking is not becoming. Only repetition is becoming. When you design a system that aligns with the life you want, everything becomes simpler. You no longer rely on force. You no longer negotiate with your feelings. You allow the rhythm of your habits to carry you. Progress becomes less dramatic, but more real. Less loud, but more stable. You stop chasing results and start living in a way that makes results inevitable. This is the moment where discipline stops feeling like pressure and begins feeling like peace. Because discipline is not punishment. Discipline is self-respect. Discipline is choosing the future over the impulse. Discipline is living in alignment with who you know you can be. When you build habits that match your values, you no longer need to tell yourself what you're building. You simply become the builder. And the more you behave like the person you want to be, the more your identity shifts. The mind cannot ignore evidence, and your daily actions supply it with proof. You prove that you can be trusted. You prove that you can be consistent. You prove that you are no longer someone who abandons themselves. Let this chapter be your reminder you do not need to change everything at once. You do not need grand gestures. You do not need the perfect routine. You only need one thing: alignment. Choose habits that reflect the life you want. Then repeat them until your identity rises to match them. Transformation doesn't happen when you announce your goals. Transformation happens when your habits quietly make your goals unnecessary. Because you're already living the kind of life you once only wished for. Imagine waking up one day and realizing your system is simply who you are. You don't force productivity, you are a focused person. You don't try to be calm, you are grounded. You don't chase success. You behave like someone. Success naturally follows. This is the final shift. The system becomes the identity becomes the lifestyle. The lifestyle creates the future. And none of it arrives through wishing. It arrives through repetition, steady, gentle, unwavering repetition. Your goals are allowed to be silent now. Let your habits speak. Let your systems carry the message forward. Let your behavior tell the story of who you're becoming. In the end, the world doesn't need to hear your intentions. It will see your transformation. And more importantly, you will feel it. As we come to the end of this journey, I want you to pause and feel the quiet strength inside you right now. Not the loud kind of motivation that fades, but the calm certainty that comes from understanding yourself more deeply. Everything you've listened to tonight, every chapter, every idea, every shift was never about chasing a bigger life. It was about building a steadier one, a life where your energy is protected, your decisions are aligned, and your habits quietly carry you into the future you've been imagining. You don't need to fight for change. You don't need to force a new identity. You've already begun becoming the person you want to be, not through pressure, but through awareness, not through goals, but through systems, not through noise, but through repeated truth. Breathe in slowly and let that truth settle into your body. You've taken in a lot tonight: ideas, reflections, new ways of seeing yourself. But you don't need to hold all of it at once. Just hold one thing. Your next small action matters. It does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be aligned. And when you repeat it again tomorrow, and again the next day, your identity will quietly rise to meet your intention. This is how lives change, one gentle, repeated moment of alignment at a time. And if this audiobook brought you peace, or clarity, or even just softened the noise inside your mind for a little while, then I invite you to continue this journey with us. This channel exists for nights like this, for people who are growing, healing, and becoming someone they're proud of. If you want more long-form audiobooks designed to help you sleep, to reprogram your mindset, and to expand the way you see your life, Make sure you subscribe to Sleep Success Audiobook and turn on notifications so you never miss the next chapter of your evolution. And if you found a moment in this video that touched you, gave you direction, or reminded you of your strength, leave a comment and let us know. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read tonight. We grow together here quietly, gently, consistently. Now, let your breath slow down. Let your body sink deeper into rest. You've already done enough for today. Your system will carry you forward tomorrow. For now, allow your mind to soften and drift into the calm you deserve. Good night, my friend. You're doing better than you think. And your future is already being built one peaceful moment at a time.